Hi, my name is Muhammad Nasrul Aiman bin Muhammad Zulkarnain and my matrix number is B0920102221. And today I'm going to explain about Otto cycle basic and diesel cycle basic. First we go to introduction. An Otto cycle is an idealized thermodynamic cycle that describes the functioning of a typical spark ignition piston engine. While the diesel cycle is a combustion process of a reciprocating internal combustion engine. The history of Otto cycle. The first person to build a working four-stroke engine was a German engineer called Nicholas Otto. This is why the four-stroke principle today is commonly known as a Otto cycle, and four-stroke engines using spark plugs often are called Otto engines. While the diesel cycle, in the 1890s, a German inventor, Rudolf Diesel, patented his efficient, slow-burning compression ignition internal combustion engine. Diesel realized his original cycle would not work, and he adopted the constant pressure cycle, which is known as the diesel cycle. The application of Otto cycle. The Otto cycle provides the energy for most transportation and was essential for the modern world. Any machine that uses gasoline will be divided into two categories of engines, such as two-stroke engines and four-stroke engines. While the diesel cycle, diesel engines have the lowest specific fuel consumption. In North America, diesel engines are primarily used in large trucks, where the low stress, high efficiency cycle leads to much more longer engine life and lower operational costs. That's all from me. Thank you.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. My name is Muhammad Ifat Hakim bin Muhammad Rabi. I will present the component of Otto cycle and diesel cycle. This is the diagram of Otto cycle. The part of Otto cycle is cylinder. The space which the pistons travel up and down. The piston to convert the heat energy into mechanical energy that will rotate the engine. And spark plug, the device that delivers electric current from an ignition system to the combustion chamber. The combustion chamber, the area within the cylinder where the fuel or air mix is ignited. The top dead center, the farthest point of the piston's upward travel. The bottom dead center, the farthest point of the piston's downward travel. Next, the intake and exhaust valve. This is responsible for controlling the flow of gas through the combustion chamber. Next, we move to diesel cycle. This is the diagram of diesel cycle. The part of diesel cycle is cylinder, where the work is done, and the piston to slide in and out in the cylinder in order to compress the air injected to the chamber. Next, the glow plug, a heating device used to aid in starting diesel engines. The fuel injector to atomize the fuel. The exhaust valve. The product of combustion after doing work on the piston are removed from cylinder via this valve. The intake valve is to allow the flow of an air or fuel mixture into the engine cylinder. Next, the drive shaft, to transfer the engine torque from the gearbox or differential to the wheels. The pre-chamber, to speed the combustion process and to increasing engine speed. The combustion chamber is the area within the cylinder where the fuel or air mix is ignited. Okay, that's all from me. Next, we move to next part. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Muhammad Mukesh Ahmad bin Adas. I want to share about the working principle of the cycle. Like other thermodynamic cycle, this cycle turns chemical energy into the thermal energy and then into motion. The other cycle describe how internal combustion engines that use gasoline work, like automobiles and lawnmowers. The Otto cycle provides the energy for most transportation and was essential for the modern world. Specifically, the vast majority of the automobiles seen on the road today use the Otto cycle to convert gasoline into the motion. For the working principle for the diesel cycle is a combustion process of reciprocating internal combustion engine. In it, fuel is ignited by heat generated during the compression of air in the combustion chamber, into which fuel is then injected. The diesel engine also is a heat engine, it's convert heat into work.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. My name is Muhammad Noreika bin Aziz. I'm from BMLV S102. Today I will present about Otto and diesel cycle diagrams of basic and improved cycle. So this is a 4-stroke diesel cycle. We have 4 process: suction, compression, power and exhaust. For suction process, the piston move down for air sucked into the cylinder from open inlet valve while the exhaust valve remain closed. For the compression process, the piston move upwards to compress the air in cylinder while both valves remains closed. And the next process is the power process. Diesel injected into a hot air that had been compressed. From the theory, fuel injected at the end of the compression stroke. And the last process is the exhaust. Piston move upwards to push the remaining gas out while inlet valve remain closed and exhaust valve open. So the next one is a Otto cycle diagram 4-stroke. It has 4 process: intake, compression, power and exhaust. So for the intake is to draw mixture of air and fuel into the cylinder. While piston moving down, intake valve open for mixture air and fuel flow in and exhaust remain closed. Next, the compression. Piston move upwards while the both valve remains to compress the mixture to become hot. And the next one is a power process. The expansion of the gases due to the heat of combustion exerts a pressure in cylinder and piston. The piston move downwards while both valves remain closed. And the last one is the exhaust process. Intake valve closed and the exhaust valve open and piston upward, pushing the gas out. Suggestion to improve the cycle. For Otto cycle, we can increase compression ratio. In other words, if the compression ratio of a gasoline engine is up to 10.5, detonation combustion will occur unless the octane number of the fuel is high. For the diesel cycle, we can run the engine full lean, that is, use excess air. It is well unknown that full lean running improve the efficiency. That's all for me. Thank you.
Hello and Assalamualaikum. My name is Muhammad Fakri Bizafini and I will present the disadvantage of the cycle, which is Otto cycle. Otto cycle disadvantage is it is inefficient compared to the diesel cycle. This cycle is not recommended for big vehicle engine, which is diesel engine. This cycle is a waste of time because it requires an additional spark plug for combustion the air fuel mixture, which raises the cost. The compression ratio for this cycle is poor, and this cycle is inefficient compared to diesel cycle. We move to the advantages of improved cycle, which is diesel cycle. Diesel fuel is slightly more expensive than gasoline, but it has higher energy density, meaning that more energy can be recovered from the same volume of diesel. As a result, diesel engine in cars get better gas mileage, making them a natural alternative for heavy-duty transportation and equipment. Diesel is heavier and oilier than gasoline, and it has a higher boiling point than water. Diesel engines in particular are gaining popularity due to their increases efficiency and cost effectiveness. It is diesel engines, air and fuel are introduced at distinct times, but in a gas engine, a mixture of air and gas is introduced from the beginning. In a diesel engine, fuel is injected using an injector, whereas in a gasoline engine, fuel is injected through the carburetor. In a gasoline engine, fuel and air are combined and compressed before being injected into the engine. Fuel compression and as a result, overall efficiency are limited by the air and fuel.